October 10th here in Seoul.
Coming up on News Center tonight. Samsung Display says it'll invest some $11 billion to develop the next generation of LED displays. The project will gather parts and materials that are sourced locally as part of efforts to become more self-sufficient amid Japan's trade curbs.
President Moon Jae-in praises Samsung Display's multi-billion-dollar investment plan, saying it will help Korea keep its position as the world's #1 display powerhouse. His government also unveils ambitious plans to develop Korea's marine biotechnology industry.
It's been almost 100 days since Japan imposed trade restrictions against Korea. We take a look at how Korea has responded, starting with a nationwide boycott of Japanese goods and services.
And just days after US President Donald Trump announced the withdrawal of American troops from a key part of Syria, Turkey launches an assault on territory held by Kurdish-led forces, key allies of the US in the region. NEWSCENTER begins now. Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Noadam.
And I'm Han-deun. It's great to have you with us. Our top story this evening, President Moon Jae-in has praised Samsung Display's decision to invest some $11 billion into the display sector. He says it'll help South Korea maintain its position as the world's #1 display maker.
He also said it will help the country become more self-sufficient in parts, materials and equipment which have been affected by Japan's trade curbs. Our Park Hee-jun starts us off.
Samsung Display has agreed to invest around $11 billion into its next-generation display business until 2025 to secure South Korea's position as the global leader in displays. An event was held at a Samsung display factory in Chungcheongnam-do province to celebrate this major investment.
As we promised, we will create jobs and bring hopes and dreams to our young people by investing more than $10.9 billion into next-generation large displays.
Welcoming the announcement, President Moon described it as the starting point of strengthening South Korea's display industry into one that no country will dare to challenge.
오늘 신규 투자 협약식은 세계 1위 디스플레이 경쟁력을 지키면서 핵심 소재 부품 장비를 자립하여 누구도 넘볼 수 없는 디스플레이 제조 강국으로 가는 출발점이 될 것입니다.
President Moon vowed that the government will support Samsung's bold challenge through its own efforts. That includes injecting more than $334 million into the industry over the next 7 years. The president also reassured the public that local display manufacturers will no longer fall under the whim of Japan's export curbs on key high-tech materials.
요즘 그 디스플레이 쪽은 일부 핵심 부품 소재 또 장비가 특정국의 의존도가 높아서 수출 통제에 영향을 받지 않을까 국민들이 걱정 많이 하지 않습니까? 이제 그 걱정 안 해도 됩니까?
네, 걱정 안 하셔도 됩니다. 누구도 넘볼 수 없는 디스플레이 강국 소경차를 뛰어나가겠습니다.
Also during his economic tour to Chungcheongnam-do province, President Moon unveiled his plans to raise Korea's status in the oceans industry. He vowed to actively nurture the marine tourism, eco-friendly ship, and ocean energy industries, expanding them into a $9 billion market by 2030. He also promised to support related startups by cultivating 20 firms with sales of more than $83 million by 2030. Park Hee-jun, Arirang News.
In related news, Samsung Display announced new investments worth almost $11 billion to produce high-end quantum.OLED screens. South Korea's Trade Ministry has also unveiled a set of measures to help nurture the local display industry. Kim Hae-sung has the details.
Samsung Display is investing almost $11 billion to develop quantum.OLED displays by 2025. It'll invest $8.4 billion in facilities and the rest in research and development of quantum dot display technologies. Quantum dots are tiny semiconductor crystals that can convert blue light into red and green when excited by an energy source. Quantum dot OLED displays have a higher energy efficiency and wider color range than LCD or liquid crystal displays. This investment is seen as a move by Samsung to accelerate the shift to high-end display screens and gain a competitive edge against its rivals from China and address falling profits amid the oversupply of LCD panels in the global market. It had mainly produced displays for smartphones but not TVs. Samsung plans to retool some of its LCD production lines for quantum dot production and begin operation from 2021 with a monthly capacity of 30,000 sheets. It added that the investment is expected to create around 80,000 new jobs over the next 5 years. South Korea's Trade Ministry also announced Thursday that the government will allocate a $93 million new budget for the display sector in 2020. This is a threefold increase from this year's as part of efforts to support R&D and cooperate with companies and universities to nurture talent in the display industry. LG Display had also announced in July an investment of $2.6 billion in OLED facilities to expand its production for its premium OLED panels. 김혜성, 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea and Japan are set for a showdown at the World Trade Organization's Geneva headquarters over Tokyo's export restrictions on Seoul. They'll be holding talks on Friday, attended by officials at the director level. South Korea had sent a request for a bilateral consultation after launching a complaint with the WTO last month. According to WTO rules, both parties should hold their first consultation within 30 days of the original request. In July, Tokyo imposed export restrictions to South Korea on 3 high-tech materials, which are crucial in the production of semiconductors and displays. Seoul says the curbs violate the rules of the WTO and gov't. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is reportedly considering meeting South Korean Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon if Lee goes to Japan for Emperor Naruhito's enthronement ceremony. That ceremony is on October 22nd, and according to Japanese media outlet NHK, Abe would want to have a short meeting if Lee Nak-yeon is there. Observers say that could help improve the two countries' ties, which have worsened in recent months due to their trade dispute. The ceremony will be attended by around 200 key figures from around the world, and Abe plans to meet with around 50 of them. It's been around 100 days since Japan slapped export restrictions against South Korea. Marking 100 days, we bring you a 2-part special series on how South Korea has responded so far. Today, our Kim Bo-kyung takes a look at how Korean consumers have responded by boycotting Japan in all kinds of ways.
Almost 100 days have passed since Japan imposed trade restrictions on South Korea in July, and South Korea's boycott of Japanese products is still going strong.
This street outside Gangnam Station is one of the busiest streets in Seoul. But despite the number of people passing by, the inside of this Japanese brand shop looks rather quiet.
Japanese clothing brand Uniqlo saw its sales decline in July by around 70% compared to June, according to an analysis of 8 credit card companies.
Japan's trade retaliation and economic restrictions triggered me not to buy products related to Japan.
South Koreans also decided not to take vacations in Japan. A recent report by the Korea Economic Research Institute said that only 870,000 South Koreans took a trip to Japan during the summer vacation period in July and August. That's a 27% decrease on year.
As the number of Korean tourists in Japan fell during the summer vacation period, Japan saw a decrease of about $200 million in the indirect production. Accommodation saw the biggest decrease, followed by food services and retail.
But Japanese firms aren't the only ones feeling the effects. According to online booking site Timon, airlines in Korea saw the number of tickets to Japan sold in August and September fall by 78% on year.
As the demand for Japan tours decreased, sales and business profits of domestic airlines also dropped, eventually harming South Korea's economy.
Thus, some people are saying Seoul has to improve ties with Japan by having talks for Seoul's own sake.
The current economic situation isn't very good, so I wish we could talk this out, trying to pursue what's good for our nation.
As the boycott continues, the harm to both countries' economies will only increase. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
The Korea Development Institute says the local economy has remained, quote, stagnant for 7 consecutive months. In its monthly report released today, the think tank said growth is being weighed by sluggish exports and investments, despite an uptick in consumption. Korea's exports in September tumbled nearly 12% on year amid a slowing global economy. Production of electronic components and cars also fell around 17% and 12% respectively. Although consumption rose, it may have been a one-off gain due to an early Thanksgiving holiday this year that boosted retail sales in August. The rise was also attributed to increasing tourism to Jeju Island, with many travelers boycotting trips to Japan amid the Seoul-Tokyo trade dispute. North Korea has recently aired a lengthy documentary on its intercontinental ballistic missiles, and experts say this could be a subtle warning to the US after talks in Sweden fell apart last weekend. Lee Min-sun reports.
Only a few days after working-level talks between North Korea and the United States collapsed in Stockholm, North Korea has broadcast a documentary showing the wide range of its intercontinental ballistic missile launches since 2017. North Korea's state-run Korean Central TV aired the 100-minute-long documentary on Tuesday, showcasing the regime's achievements toward self-reliance, including in terms of defense. The second half of the film focuses on showcasing various ICBM launches conducted in 2017 before North Korea declared a moratorium on testing. The section on the regime's defense industry includes all the weapons and missiles tested under Kim Jong-un's rule, including the launch of Hwasong-15, the regime's last ICBM launch in November 2017. This comes as the North Korean leader has been emphasizing the importance of self-reliance in a number of areas. Speaking during a tour of military-run farms in his first public appearance in almost a month, Kim emphasized the importance of developing the North's agricultural sector to overcome the country's food supply issues.
The emphasis on self-reliance means Kim thinks the North should stand on its own economic strength, even if negotiations with the U.S. break down. It seems the regime is emphasizing this issue because the recent working-level talks in Stockholm broke down.
Some experts also believe North Korea's fresh emphasis on self-reliance and showcasing its ICBM capabilities is to call for internal solidarity and to urge the U.S. to change what it sees as Washington's stubborn and inflexible attitude toward its nuclear negotiations with the regime. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News.
There are growing concerns over Japan's plan to dump radioactive water from its crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean. And the South Korean government has brought up the issue at a global conference in London this week. Park Se-young with the details.
South Korea raised the issue of Japan's reported plan to release radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the Pacific Ocean at a global conference of the International Maritime Organization in London this week. During a meeting to discuss the London Convention and Protocol, Seoul's Fishery Ministry demanded that Tokyo transparently disclose information over its handling of the contaminated water and called for continuous discussion of the issue. The London Protocol is aimed at preventing marine pollution and bans the export of waste or other matter to other countries for dumping or incineration at sea. However, the direct dumping of wastewater from land to sea has been absent from the discussion. With the management of radioactive waste on the agenda for this year's meeting, representatives from China and Chile also expressed their concern and called for more discussion over the matter. Ghana's representative to the IMO, who is the chair of the meeting, also noted that the issue can be brought up for discussion and that Japan should provide information. For the first time, Japan's representative said it will continue to provide transparent information concerning the contaminated water at Fukushima. This is the latest effort by the Korean government to deter Tokyo from discharging an estimated 1.1 million tons of contaminated water stored at its Fukushima plant. Last month, Seoul raised the issue at the General Conference of the International Atomic Energy Agency. At the gathering, Japan dismissed criticisms claiming they were not based on scientific evidence. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
In other news, Turkey has launched a ground offensive in northeastern Syria just hours after deploying warplanes and artillery to territories held by Kurdish forces, a key U.S. ally in the fight against ISIS. The assault came just days after President Trump said he was pulling American troops out of the region. Kim Mo-kyun has more.
Turkish troops have entered the area east of the Euphrates, targeting a Kurdish-led military alliance. Video footage showed civilians fleeing border towns filled with smoke, and jet trails were visible in the sky. At least 15 people, including 8 civilians, have been killed so far, according to the London-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says the operation is to create a safe zone without Kurdish forces, which will also shelter Syrian refugees. He then claimed that the mission will bring peace to the area by preserving Syria's territorial integrity and liberating local communities from terrorists. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces earlier vowed to resist any Turkish advance. President Trump on Wednesday called the Turkish offensive a bad idea after essentially giving the invasion the green light, following his abrupt decision to pull U.S. forces out of that part of Syria. The international community has also raised concerns over the Turkish aggression.
Any military operation must fully respect the UN Charter and international humanitarian law. Civilians and civilian infrastructure should be protected in accordance with international law.
The UN Security Council will meet on Thursday to address Turkey's military operation, and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker has pressed Turkey to halt its military actions. France, Germany, and the UK also released a joint statement calling Turkey's operation an act of jeopardizing security and humanitarian efforts. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, fingers have been pointing at the U.S. for the recent Turkish aggression in Syria, as it happened after U.S. troops pulled back from the area, paving the way for an assault on forces that have long been American allies. And Lee Kyung-eun reports.
Northeastern Syria, where the Turkish aggression took place, has been controlled by the Syrian Democratic Forces led by the Kurdish People's Protection Unit. They're the key ally of the U.S. in the battle against ISIS, and the U.S. have been stationing its troops in the area to maintain a no-fly zone protecting it from external attacks. The major threat was from Turkey. As the area is on the border between Turkey and Syria, Turkey had been aiming to remove the Kurdish forces and create a safe zone to transfer millions of Syrian refugees. It had been negotiating with the U.S. to accomplish the goal, but the two sides failed to reach a deal. Against this backdrop, the U.S. had been keeping its forces in the area to deter Turkish attacks against a key ally in the fight against ISIS. However, that policy changed a couple of days ago when President Trump announced the U.S. was withdrawing its troops from the region. Just 4 days after the withdrawal, Turkey took military action largely driven by its own national interest. Such a move was not unexpected following the removal of U.S. protection for the Kurdish. Turkey, meanwhile, insists its aggression does not violate the international law and claims the Kurdish are a terrorist group. Lee Kyung-eun, Arirang News.
Back to local news, and South Korea has reported another case of African swine fever in the country's northern region. It comes about a week after no new cases. To prevent the disease from spreading further, the government convened another meeting today to discuss quarantine measures. Yoon Jung-min tells us more.
South Korea has confirmed another case of African swine fever. The Agriculture Ministry said Wednesday that a pig farm in Yeoncheon County, Gyeonggi-do Province, where a suspected case was reported, had tested positive for the virus. It is the second confirmed case of the disease in Yeoncheon County and the 14th overall in South Korea. The news comes just after the government designated 6 buffer zones in northern Gyeonggi-do Province where ASF has been reported, including Yeoncheon, to prevent the disease from spreading to other regions. Those regions are mostly concentrated near the border with North Korea, adding concerns that it could spread across the border. On Thursday, Prime Minister Lee Na-yeon convened another emergency meeting with relevant ministries to discuss tighter quarantine measures. Lee asked farmers to stop the practice of spool feeding, one of the main suspected causes of the disease, and called for improved sanitation at pig farms. The Agriculture Ministry immediately dispatched quarantine personnel to Yeoncheon County for an investigation. A standstill order has also been issued and people and vehicles are prohibited from moving in and out of the region for 48 hours. Some 8,000 pigs at or near the site are expected to be culled, adding to the nearly 150,000 pigs nationwide that have been killed to control the outbreak. African swine fever is not a threat to humans, but it is highly contagious and fatal to swine herds. Since Korea's first outbreak in September, the disease has spread rapidly and has shown little signs of abating. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
China has toned down expectations for its trade talks set for this Thursday and Friday with the U.S. Reports say the talks might even be cut short. Our Kim Jae-hee tells us more on what this may be about.
China is downplaying expectations for progress on its trade talks with the U.S., despite President Trump's optimistic remarks on Wednesday. According to Reuters, Chinese government officials said the Trump administration's recent blacklisting of 28 Chinese firms generated a negative atmosphere. The U.S. had previously added some of China's top AI companies to its trade blacklist over their alleged involvement in the surveillance and detention of Muslim minorities in China. The U.S. also announced new visa restrictions on Tuesday on Chinese officials they believe are responsible for the detention or abuse of Muslim minorities. The officials said while Beijing wants the trade war to end, they're not optimistic about any agreement in the short term, and added that more time is needed to improve ties. Hong Kong-based South China Morning Post also quoted an anonymous source saying there's a possibility the Chinese delegation may cut short their stay in Washington. The source said there's not much optimism, and the original plan of the delegation to depart Washington on October 12th could be moved ahead to the 11th. Meanwhile, President Trump told reporters earlier this week there's a really good chance a deal will happen. The negotiations scheduled for Thursday and Friday in Washington are the first high-level talks between the two countries in more than 2 months. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
NBA's official Chinese partners have cut ties with the league as a team official tweeted on supporting pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. The tweet has placed the basketball league at odds with the Chinese government and now threatens its long relationship with the country as well as its millions of fans. Our Choi Jung-yoon has the details.
A Twitter post by an NBA executive has sparked outrage among Chinese basketball fans. The controversy began after Daryl Morey, the general manager of the Houston Rockets, tweeted a message last Friday supporting the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong. Though he quickly deleted the tweet and apologized for his statement, the damage was already done, with Chinese sponsors and broadcasters quickly severing their ties with the NBA. According to CNN Business, all 11 of the NBA's official Chinese partners have withdrawn their endorsement of the league since Morey's tweet. CCTV, China's national broadcaster, refused to air 2 preseason games between the LA Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets, currently taking place in China. The commissioner of the NBA, however, expressed his support for Morey's freedom of speech, saying everyone has a right to speak.
What I also tried to suggest is I understand that there are consequences from that exercise of, in essence, his freedom of speech. And, you know, we will have to live with those consequences. It's my hope that for our Chinese fans and our partners in China, they will see those remarks in the context of now a 3-decade, if not longer, relationship.
But Silver's response further inflamed a large segment of the Chinese population and is threatening the NBA's popularity in China. Even the Chinese government released a statement to criticize the NBA commissioner's remarks.
Also, I suggest you pay attention to how ordinary Chinese people react to this and what their attitude is. If you want to hold exchanges in cooperation with China without knowing what public opinion is, it won't work.
Amid the growing spat, pundits say there's a lot at stake for the NBA, as the Chinese market makes up at least 10% of the league's current revenues and could reach the 20% mark by 2030. Choi Jung-yoon, Arirang News.
The one and only Korean mall in the Middle East will invite consumers in the region starting from February next year. The platform will not only act as an industrial exhibition where Korean companies can show and sell their products, but also will become the hub to expand Korea's export partners abroad. Our Won Jung-hwan reports.
South Korea's small and medium-sized companies are looking for more export opportunities in the Middle East and beyond through the UAE's capital, Abu Dhabi. An exhibition complex for Korean products will open in Abu Dhabi early next year. The 18,000 square meter complex, dubbed the Abu Dhabi Korean Mall, will be the first of its kind to be established in the region. It is large enough to accommodate more than 400 Korean SMEs, showcasing Korean-made products for 360 days every year. The brainchild of this endeavor says he really wanted to connect South Korean SMEs with buyers in his country.
We want to encourage second level of companies, especially SMEs, to be part of UAE economy. And this concept will try to help more than 1,200 SMEs, Korean companies, to be in the region.
Also, one of the reasons why the host country chose South Korea was because of its strong and already approved K-wave influence in the region.
And as you said, also not only in the industrial and also in commercial, but also social. Korean, drama, Korean culture has become, spread all over the region.
This unique platform will provide a chance for Korean SMEs to open up new business relationships. It will be carried out through a wide spectrum of trade activities under one roof, including on-site sales, export consulting with clients, and promotion and launch of new products. And a person who is in charge of supporting Korean companies in Abu Dhabi thinks because of its location, Korean SMEs can expand their business much further if they take this chance.
The location is basically the center of the Middle East and North Africa region, which has a population of more than 400 million people. Also, UAE is known for its intermediate trade, so once the Korean companies enter the complex in Abu Dhabi, then it can reach out further to other countries in the Middle East, Africa, and even to Europe.
From next February, Abu Dhabi Korean Mall is ready to provide opportunities for Korean companies to diversify their export markets amid growing uncertainties in the global market, exacerbated by the US-China trade war and Japan's export curbs. 원정환, 아리랑 뉴스.
There's an island in the middle of the Han River in Seoul that's been practically abandoned for 50 years, and that is Noodle Island. No development projects there have ever taken off, but now it's been given new life as a place for some rest and entertainment. Kan Young-woo has the story.
Sitting in the heart of Seoul's Hangang River, Noodle Island is poised to re-establish itself as a popular destination after major renovations have been made to transform the island into a multi-complex. Since its construction in 1917, the man-made island served as a popular spot for family picnics until the 1960s, but its popularity waned over the years as multiple development projects tried and failed to reinvent the island. Now, under the theme of Get Away from Everyday Life, Noodle Island is ready to make a comeback. This 3,000 square meter green space can be used as an outdoor concert venue or a picnic place with a clear view of Seoul's Hangang River. Aside from being able to soak in stunning river views, there are numerous facilities, including a bookstore, a lounge bar, and a plant atelier for visitors to enjoy.
This place feels somewhat refined. I don't know if there are many people coming here, but I think it's a good place to chill out. It's very city-like.
We used to only be able to walk around the park over there, but now it's nice to have more places to check out. We also like that it's turned into a place where people can actually come to, instead of just looking at the island from afar.
Although visitors cannot park there, 14 different buses stop in the middle of the Hangang Bridge that's directly connected to the island. The specific bus numbers are posted on Noodle Island's website. Most of the island's facilities are open from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. from Tuesday through Sunday, with viewing areas on the roof and in the park open 24/7. Kan Young-woo, Arirang News.
South Korea's presidential office says its nominee for the ambassador to the US, Lee Soo-hyuk, has been approved by Washington. He is a lawmaker with the ruling Democratic Party. He's experienced in inter-Korean affairs, having negotiated on behalf of South Korea in the first six-party talks. An inter-Korean World Cup qualifier set for next Tuesday in Pyongyang is unlikely to be broadcast live. An official at Seoul's Unification Ministry says North Korea has remained silent on South Korea's proposal to send a cheering squad to Pyongyang and broadcasting the match live. The official added that setting up a live broadcast on such short notice would be difficult. The inter-Korean football match between the men's national teams in the North's capital would be the first of its kind in 29 years. The South Korean government says it will help 1,000 small and medium-sized local firms adopt so-called smart factories within the next 2 years. The support plan involves providing more funds to the companies to help them achieve that goal. The smart factories will consist of highly digitized systems and equipment such as 5G technology and AI that aim to improve productivity. The government plans to create more of these facilities to boost the country's manufacturing sector. A new report shows well over 2 billion people around the world are suffering with sight issues. This is according to the World Health Organization on Thursday, as it raises awareness of World Sight Day. It says at least 2.2 billion people globally have visual impairment, and around half of them have visual impairment that could have been prevented or has yet to be addressed. The majority of people with visual impairment around the world are over 50 years old. Income also plays a role. The WHO says the prevalence of distance visual impairment in low and middle income regions is 4 times higher than high income regions.
We enjoyed some mild weather for today, and it's expected to stay that way throughout the rest of the week.
Good news indeed. For more details, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Now, clear skies are going to dominate over the capital than the eastern regions tomorrow. Now, due to the indirect effect of the typhoon Hagibis, it's going to be raining in the eastern regions, accompanied by some strong winds blowing 15 meters per second. Now, meanwhile, the inland areas can expect a pleasant Friday afternoon with temperatures bouncing back up to its seasonal norms. And the daily lows for tomorrow will be double-digit readings, as Seoul will be kicking off to 14 degrees Celsius, and Chuncheon and Gyeongju are chillier at 11 degrees, while the southern regions such as Busan and Jeju will get a warmer start to the day at 17 degrees. Now, checking out the daytime highs for tomorrow, the sunny conditions will quickly boost up the mercury to 26 degrees for Seoul, and similar temperatures will apply elsewhere. And a low-pressure system will linger over the nation during this weekend, so there will be plenty of clouds and some spotty showers over the eastern regions. And sunshine will return next week, but a cold front will drop our lows once more. Now we'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will do it for today's Arirang News Center. Thank you, as always, for watching.
Keep it tuned to Arirang for news in depth coming up next.